The former Treasury Supremo, Ken Henry, has hit out at political meddling in the tax system, saying a climate of fear among politicians has undermined the effectiveness of new taxes. And he's questioned whether it's worth the effort of proposing new policies like the mining tax when they end up being watered down. Political correspondent Tom Iggulden reports from Canberra.
No longer a bureaucrat, Ken Henry can speak his mind, as he did when he was asked today at an economics forum about the mining tax.
I'll say a couple of things about it. Obviously, I won't say everything I think about it.
But what he did say was plenty. Dr Henry was instrumental in the design of Kevin Rudd's original mining tax, and he's none too pleased with the revamped version put into law by Julia Gillard.
It is probably true that the original proposal was too complex for the public to understand, but there's no way the public could possibly understand what has actually been legislated either. Indeed, it's actually more complicated than what was originally proposed.
That, he says, is what happens when the best-laid plans of policy advisors are watered down by political compromise.
The Australian political or policy reaction to the fear of creating losers, that is, inflicting windfall losses on people, the reaction is one of overcompensation. And so this idea that in order to get political acceptance of any tax change, you have to bribe people through an overcompensation. There's a very strong idea in Australian politics.
It's enough to drive a bureaucrat mad, and more than a year after quitting as Treasury Secretary, his frustration's still evident.
The obvious question it raises is one that I dare not ask, really, which is whether it's worth bothering at all.
And as if on cue, the Prime Minister reminded voters today of the sweeteners she's put into the carbon tax.
For the average household, they'll see an impact of $3.30, but on average our assistance per week will be $10.10.
And she's telling voters in the West to compare that with what the state government's offering.
Under the Barnett state government, electricity prices have gone up 57%. That's an impost of $520 per household, and there's no real assistance available.
But that wasn't the only fight the Prime Minister picked today. The government's revived the asylum seeker debate by seizing on comments from an opposition MP about the UN Refugee Convention.
The Refugee Convention was created for a different time, and some aspects of it are now outdated when dealing with the influx of, particularly when dealing with the influx of illegal arrivals that we're seeing at the moment.
Tony Abbott's ruled out supporting the government's Malaysia solution because Malaysia isn't a signatory to the Refugee Convention.
Then his spokesperson is saying the Refugee Convention isn't fit for the modern age. Now what this adds up to is Mr Abbott has clearly just been taking every opportunity to say no to effective action to deter asylum seekers.
We didn't say it's outdated. We stick by our policy of ensuring that if people come by boat, they displace humanitarian refugees that come through the front door.
But there's genuine policy disagreement in Conservative circles on another issue after the state LNP conference in Brisbane passed a motion calling for the abolition of AbStudy, which helps underprivileged Indigenous students with their studies at TAFE and university. Now, the Federal Coalition's Indigenous Affairs spokesman Nigel Scullion says only someone with half a brain would consider getting rid of it. Tom Iggulden, Lateline.